Hello there, and welcome to this amazing tutorial. In this video, we are going to cover SAT practice test number 1's No Calculator section. We're going to solve the whole thing, but before we begin, I want you to practice with me. So whenever I open a question, try to solve it by yourself first, and then watch my solution and try to compare your solution and your answers to mine. No Calculator section contains 20 questions and 25 minutes will be given to you on the real exam. Here is a reference of all the equations and the relations you need for the test. Let's start from the first question. Stop the video before each question and try to solve all those questions by yourself before I explain it to you. If x minus 1 over 3 is equal to k and k is equal to 3, what is the value of x? Well, this is a simple equation problem, so let's substitute k into this equation. X minus 1 divided by 3 is equal to 3. Now let's multiply both sides by 3, so times 3 times 3. Well, these 3's cancel, and we get x minus 1 is equal to 3 times 3, which is 9. Now we can throw negative 1 to the other side, and we get x is equal to 9 plus 1, or 10. So 10 is the correct answer for this question. Let's move on. Try to solve this by yourself. Well, in imaginary number problems, they always give you what I is. I, the imaginary number, is equal to square root of negative 1. But it's not really necessary to know for this question. In this question, we just have to simplify or sum this expression right here. What you have to know is, these are two complex numbers. They have real parts like 7 and negative 8, and complex parts like 3i and 9i. When you want to sum it up, you treat the constants just like you treat them in polynomials. So you sum 7 and negative 8 and you get negative 1. And then you sum the complex or the imaginary part separately. So 3i plus 9i is equal to 12i. So the answer to this question is negative 1 plus 12i, which is A. Now let's move on. Try to solve this. On Saturday afternoon, Armand sent M text messages each hour for 5 hours, and Tyrone sent P text messages each hour for 4 hours. Which of the following represents the total number of messages sent by Armand and Tyrone on Saturday afternoon? Well, we know that Armand sent M messages for 5 hours, so let's multiply 5 times M. This will give the amount of messages Armand sent. Now let's see how many messages Tyrone sent. He sent P messages each hour for 4 hours. So we need to sum the total by 4 times P. And this will give us the total amount of messages these guys sent over that day. Therefore, the answer is C. Now let's move on to the next question. Katie is a repair technician for a phone company. Each week, she receives a batch of phones that need repairs. The number of phones that she has left to fix at the end of each day can be estimated with the equation P is equal to 108 minus 23D. Now guys, if you look closely here, you will see that this is a linear equation with a negative slope. So we can actually represent it on an xy plane, which is actually not xy but D versus P plane. We can express it like this, where the y-intercept is 108. And the slope right here is actually m is equal to negative 23. Okay, so this is our linear relationship with a negative slope. So it says, what is the meaning of the value 108 in this equation? As I have already told you, 108 is actually the y-intercept or the initial value in this equation, since it is a constant number. So if we think of the vertical axis as the number of phones, and if we think about the horizontal axis as the number of days left in that week, then in the beginning of the week, number of phones is equal to that y-intercept or that constant number, which is 108. Therefore, 108 is actually the amount of phones given to Katie at the beginning of each week. So let's read the answers now. A. Katie will complete the repairs within 108 days. Well, that makes no sense. B. Katie starts each week with 108 phones to fix. Well, this is exactly what we're talking about. B is the correct answer. Now let's move on to the next question. Which of the following is equivalent to the expression above? Well, this is a simplification problem. All we need to do here is add the like terms and simplify the expression. So let's first of all spread this negative sign across the expression on the right. Negative times negative x squared times y will give us positive x squared times y. Then negative sign times 3x y squared will give us negative 3x y squared, and negative times negative 3y squared will give us positive 3y squared. Now let's sum the like terms. Well, x squared times y and x squared times y will sum up, and they will give us 2x squared y. So we can cross them out. Now 5xy squared minus 3xy squared will give us positive 2xy squared. So we can cross them out as well, and negative 3y squared plus 3y squared will just cancel out. So the final expression is this. Therefore, choice C is the correct one. Now let's move on to the next question. A pediatrician uses the model above to estimate the height h of a boy in inches in terms of the boy's age a in years between the ages of 2 and 5. Well, for kids between the ages of 2 and 5, especially for the boys, the male kids, right, the pediatrician can estimate their height using this equation. Well, a is actually their age in years. Based on the model, what is the estimated increase in inches of a boy's height each year? Guys, when we talk about increase or decrease for linear relationships, when they ask you to find the increase or decrease or a rate of change, you have to think about the slope. You have to immediately think about the slope, because the slope tells you how much something is increasing or how much it's actually decreasing. So slope is what you have to think about. Now in this equation, let's recall the linear equations are written in the form y is equal to mx plus b, where b is a constant, where here 28.6 is a constant, and m is the slope, where 3 is the slope. Alright, and x is a, the age, and y is h, the height. So therefore slope is 3. M is equal to 3, right? So that's your rate of change, and that line would look something like this. Therefore, boy's height increases by 3 inches every single year. 3 is the correct answer. Now let's move on. The formula above gives the monthly payment M needed to pay off a loan of P dollars at R% annual interest over N months. Well, this equation right here, whenever you see such problems, when you look at the answers and they all look very confusing, that just means you will have to rearrange something. Now let's try to rearrange this expression right here in terms of M, R, and N. That means let's solve for P. You see right here, P is a multiple, alright? Now we need to multiply both sides by this thing, right, to get it cancelled out. So P is equal to M multiplied by this whole thing, which is 1 plus R over 1200 to the power of N, all minus 1. And then we will need to divide everything here by this. So R over 1200 on the denominator, all multiplied by 1 plus R over 1200 to the power of N. Now we have solved for P. So what we did is we just moved everything at the bottom to the top, and we put everything at the top to the bottom right next to M. Alright, so M is multiplied by that. Therefore, the correct answer is B. Now let's move on to the next question. If a over b is equal to 2, what is the value of 4b over a? Well guys, let's first of all take a look right here. A over b is equal to 2, which is actually equal to 2 divided by 1, since 2 divided by 1 is 2. Now let's flip everything here, and therefore we will have to flip everything here. B over a is equal to 1 over 2. Now, just like here, let's multiply everything by 4. So if I multiply the left hand side by 4, I will have to multiply the right hand side by 4 as well. So 4b over a is equal to 4 times 1 over 2, which is actually equal to 2. Therefore, 4b over a is 2. There is also another way to solve it, but this one is the shortest version. Now let's move on to the next question. What is the solution x comma y to the system of equations above? Now guys, you can do many things right here, and I will use the substitution method. Now, if you watched my SAT math course, you know that there's 3 ways of solving systems of linear equations. You could either graph them, you could also use elimination method, or you could use substitution method. Now let me quickly use a substitution method because it would be quite easy here. So let me first solve for x from this equation right here. Let me throw x to the other side and 19 to the other side. So 2y plus 19 is equal to x. This is what I get. Now let me plug this x right here. Instead of x, I will say 3 times 2y plus 19 plus 4y is all equal to negative 23. Now let me spread this 3 inside the parentheses. 6y plus 57 plus 4y is equal to negative 23. And let me simplify everything further. 6y plus 4y gives you 10y, and 10y is equal to negative 23 minus 57, which gives you negative 80. Now you can simplify everything by dividing both sides by 10. So let's divide both sides by 10. Y is equal to negative 80 divided by 10, which is negative 8. Now we have found y. Y is equal to negative 8. Now take a look at the answers. Right here you only have one choice where y is equal to negative 8. Therefore you don't have to solve any further, and so B is the correct answer. And if you want to make sure that B is the correct answer, just in case, well, plug in 3 and negative 8 into either one of these equations right here. So let's plug 3 and negative 8 right here. 2 times negative 8 minus 3 is equal to negative 19. Is that correct? Well, negative 16 minus 3 is equal to negative 19. So that's perfectly correct. Therefore, this is a solution to this equation. Now, if you want to make sure that you have satisfied the system of equations, you can also plug this into this equation and you will see that it's also satisfied. Therefore, this is the correct answer. Let's move on to the next question. For the function g defined above, a is a constant and g of 4 is equal to 8. What is the value of g of negative 4? Guys, first of all, in order to understand what the value of g of negative 4 is, we need to find the unknown, which is a. Let's plug 4 instead of x and 8 instead of g of x, since g of 4 is equal to 8. So 8 is equal to a times 4 squared, which is actually x squared, plus 24. We know that 4 squared is equal to 16, so 8 is equal to 16a plus 24. And by rearranging this equation, we get 16a is equal to negative 16. So a is equal to negative 1. Now we can plug this right back into the original equation, and we will get g of x is equal to negative x squared plus 24. Now guys, we're asked for g of negative 4, so plug negative 4 instead of x squared. You will get g of negative 4 is equal to negative 4 squared plus 24, which is equal to negative 16 plus 24, which is equal to 8. So A is the correct answer. Now let's move to the next problem. In the equations above, B and C represent the price per pound in dollars of beef and chicken respectively. So this is for beef and this is for chicken. So X weeks after July 1st during last summer. Well guys, at this point this is just trying to confuse you, alright? So you have two equations right here. One of them is for beef, the other one is for the price of chicken. Now the question starts right here. What was the price per pound of beef when it was equal to the price per pound of chicken? Okay, so we need to understand what was the price of beef when it was equal to the price of chicken. Guys, in order to be able to solve this question, we need to equate these two, because we are interested in the case where those two are equal. So let's equate them. 2.35 plus 0.25x is equal to 1.75 plus 0.4x. Now we need to solve for x. So let's get the like terms on one side. 2.35 minus 1.75 is equal to 0.4x minus 0.25x. And finally, 0.6 is equal to 0.15x. So x is equal to 0.6 over 0.15, which is equal to 4. Okay, so x is equal to 4. Now, on the week or the day when the price of beef is equal to price of chicken, x must be equal to 4. So let's plug it in either of those equations, all right? Either the top one or the bottom one, all right? Let me plug it to the top one. B, or the price of beef, when it was equal to the price of chicken, is equal to 2.35 plus 0.35 times 4. I plugged 4 instead of x. Now B is equal to, well, 2.35 plus 1, which is 3.35. So that is the price of your beef, and that is the same price as the price of chicken. Therefore, D is the correct answer. Let's move to the next problem. A line in the xy plane passes through the origin and has a slope of 1 over 7. Which of the following points lie on this line? Guys, if this line passes through the origin, it looks something like this, right? Something like this. That means the y-intercept of this line is 0. In other words, if we were to write the equation of this line in the original linear equation form, b, the constant right here, would be equal to 0, because that's the y-intercept. So we just get y is equal to m multiplied by x, where m is the slope. Now the slope is given to us. Y is equal to 1 over 7 multiplied by x, right? And therefore we have found the equation of this line straight away. Now it says which of the following points lie on this line. In order for any of these points to lie on this line physically, that point must satisfy this equation right here. So all we need to do is we need to plug in each one of these, and we need to see if this equation is satisfied. Let's first plug in the choice A. Let's see. 7 is equal to 1 over 7 times 0. Well, this is not correct, therefore A is not the correct answer. Now let's see B. 7 is equal to 1 over 7 times 1. Well, that's also not correct, so this goes away. B is not correct either. Now let's see C. 7 is equal to 1 over 7 times 7. Doesn't make any sense, therefore C is also wrong. And let's try D. 2 is equal to 1 over 7 times 14. Well, this is perfectly correct. 1 over 7 times 14 is 14 divided by 7, and it is equal to 2. Therefore, D is our correct answer. Now let's move on to the next question. If x is larger than 3, which of the following is equivalent to all of this? Now, before you solve this problem, you have to understand that there is a fraction with fractions, and you first need to simplify the bottom of the main fraction. So what do? Well, we sum up those two expressions. But how do we sum them up? We need common denominators. 1 over x plus 2 plus 1 over x plus 3. How can we get the common denominator? All we have to do is we have to multiply all of this by x plus 3 over x plus 3 in this way, and we have to multiply all of this by x plus 2 divided by x plus 2 in this way, x plus 2 divided by x plus 2. What this is going to do for us, it is going to give us common denominators, and as you know, for fractions, in order to sum them up, we need to have common denominators. Just like 2 over 7 plus 5 over 7 is equal to 7 over 7, right? We need to have common denominators right here as well. And this is exactly what we have now. So let's see. X plus 2 times x plus 3 is actually going to give us a common denominator of x squared plus 3x plus 2x plus 6. It's going to be the denominator at the left hand side and the denominator at the right hand side right here. Two expressions will have the same denominator, therefore I just write them as one denominator. Now, to save time, I also multiply 1 by x plus 3 and 1 by x plus 2. We get x plus 3 plus x plus 2. Now let's simplify this further. On the top we are going to get 2x plus 5, and at the bottom we're going to get x squared plus 5x plus 6. Okay? And this is very simple. Now you have to understand that this is equal to that, right? So that is equal to this whole thing. And we also have 1 at the top. So finally we get 1 over 2x plus 5 over x squared plus 5x plus 6. And if you know what this is about, then the rest is very easy. 1 over any expression is just that expression flipped, right? That fraction flipped. So we just take whatever's at the bottom and we flip it. We make the denominator numerator and we make the numerator denominator. So we have to do the same thing right here. We just have to make the denominator numerator, okay? So it becomes x squared plus 5x plus 6, and the denominator becomes 2x plus 5. So this is our simplified version of this expression right here. Therefore, choice B is correct. Now let's move to the next question. If 3x minus y is equal to 12, what is the value of a to the power of x divided by 2 to the power of y? Guys, right here, you should notice one thing. This is not an easy problem, but it has a certain rule to it. First, you have to understand that a to the power of x is actually 2 to the power of 3 all to the power of x, right? And that is equal to 2 to the power of 3x. Now let's plug that in instead of this. 2 to the power of 3x divided by 2 to the power of y. You have to remember that if we're dividing exponents with the same basis, we can just rewrite that as that base to the power of the difference of the powers, right? So this rule is applicable only for same basis. And this is why I converted a to the power of x to 2 to 3x, right? We have the same basis right here now. So what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite this as 2 to the power of 3x minus y. Now guys, you have to understand that 3x minus y is already given right here, right? 3x minus y is equal to 12. So all of this is equal to 2 to the power of 3x minus y, which is 2 to the power of 12, right? So we've got our answer right here, and the correct answer is A. Now let's move on to the next problem. And this problem is quite easy because we just need to compare the constants on the left side and the right side and use this fact right here. So let's try to do it. ax times bx is abx squared. Ax times 7 is 7ax. 2 times bx is 2bx. And 2 times 7 is 14. So this is all equal to 15x squared plus cx plus 14. Guys, right here we see that 14 is equal to 14. Yeah, that's correct. Now abx squared is equal to 15x squared because these are the only things, right, with a multiple of x squared. So abx squared is equal to 15x squared. Therefore, guys, we can understand that a multiplied by b is equal to 15, okay? And I did that by dividing both sides by x squared disappeared, and ab is equal to 15. So let's write it right here. Now that we're done with these terms, let's just bring them away, and let's look at c times x. Well, we see that the only multiples of x on the left hand side is 7ax plus 2bx, and the only multiple of x on the right hand side is c times x. So we get 7ax plus 2bx must be equal to cx. Again, we're comparing the left side and the right side. Therefore, guys, by simplifying all of this and canceling x's on the left and the right hand side, we get 7a plus 2b is equal to c. Now let's move a bit further, guys. At this point, you may be confused, you may not know what to do, but let's try everything we have. We know that a times b is equal to 15, so let's say b is equal to 15 over a. Now let's plug that into here. We get 7a plus 2b, which is 2 times 15 over a, which is 30 over a, is equal to c. At this point, guys, I want to guess. Now, what are the multiples of 15? What two things multiply to give me 15? Well, I can say, just assume that a is equal to 3 and b is equal to 5. Well, the reason I'm doing this is because 3 times 5, which is a times b, is equal to 15. Again, this is an assumption, but this is a logical assumption and it will help me to move forward. So let me plug 3 instead of a. 7 times 3 plus 30 divided by 3 is equal to c. And this gives me 21 plus 10 is equal to c. Well, c is equal to 31, right? So one of the possible values of c is 31. Therefore, I leave it like that. And now I can also say, what if a is equal to 5 and b is equal to 3? Again, a times b, which is 5 times 3, is going to be equal to 15. So that works as well. Let me plug 5 instead of a. 7 times 5, right, plus 30 over 5 is equal to, 7 times 5 is 35. 30 divided by 5 is 6. So 35 plus 6, well, that gives me 41, right? So C now is equal to 41. C is equal to 41. So that's the second choice that we get. And therefore, we have found two possible values of C. C is either 41 or C is 31. Therefore, D is the correct answer. Now let's move to the questions without answers. Try to do this one by yourself. It says t is a positive number and t squared minus 4 is equal to 0. Let's see, t squared minus 4 is equal to 0. By rearranging this, we get t squared is equal to 4. And therefore, t is equal to square root of 4, which is actually 2. So the correct answer is t is equal to 2. This is a simple problem, and leaving this on the real exam would be a shame. Now let's move to the next one. This question is related to similar triangles. In my course, you will be able to find everything you need to know about similar triangles and proportions. Let's quickly go over it. They gave us the lengths. The length of AB is 1,800 feet. So right here we got 1,800. Length of segment EB is 1,400 feet. So here we got 1,400. Length of segment BD is equal to 700. So here we got 700. And of course, length of segment CD is 800. So right here we got 800. Now guys, if you know how to compare similar triangles, right, you will understand that this triangle right here on the left side is twice bigger than this one. But if you do not know, they gave you a clue in this question. They gave this and this. This side is proportional to this side, right? And therefore, this side is proportional to this side, okay? So let's pay attention. If this side right here is proportional to this side right here, then 1,400 is proportional to 700 by a certain number. Let's see, 1,400 divided by 700 is equal to 2. This means this triangle is twice smaller than this one. Or in other words, this triangle is twice bigger than this one. So 700 times 2 will give me 1,400, and therefore 800 times 2 will give me 1,600 right here. Therefore, x is equal to 1,600. And if you want, you can even find this side right here, because 1,800 divided by 2 will give me 900. So this triangle's sides are 2 times smaller than this triangle's sides right here. X is equal to 1,600. Let's move to the next question. It is asking us to find the value of x. Now the way we can easily do this is we can solve for y on the top equation. Y is equal to negative 9 minus x. Now let's plug this y right here. X plus 2 times negative 9 minus x is equal to negative 25. Let's open up the parentheses. X minus 18 minus 2x is equal to negative 25. Negative x is equal to negative 25 plus 18, which gives me negative 7. Therefore, x is equal to 7. So this is the correct answer. Now let's move to the next problem. In a right triangle, one angle measures x degrees, where sine of x is equal to 4 over 5. What is cosine 90 degrees minus x? Well guys, you have to know a very important property for the SAT. And the explanation of that property is again given in my online full SAT math course. Now, that property goes like this. Sine of x is going to be equal to cosine of 90 minus x. And cosine of x is equal to sine of 90 minus x, where x and 90 are all in degrees, okay? And this is an important trigonometric property, the proof of which is again given in my video course. But for this problem, you just need to know that if sine of x is equal to 4 over 5, then cosine of 90 minus x has to also be equal to 4 over 5. Therefore, 4 over 5 is the correct answer to this problem. Now let's move on to the next problem. If a is equal to 5 root 2 and 2a is equal to root 2 times x, what is the value of x? Guys, let's multiply a by 2 on the left expression right here. So 2a is equal to 2 times 5 times root 2. And therefore, as given here, that is also equal to root 2x. So 2 times 5 times root 2 is actually 10 times root 2, and that is equal to root 2x. Now let's think about it, guys. We got root 2 and root 2 times x. Well, we can rewrite this, if you know from the exponent rules, we can rewrite root 2x as root 2 multiplied by root x. And so let's do that. 10 times root 2 is equal to root 2 times root x. Now we can cancel root 2 on both sides, so we get 10 is equal to root of x, and therefore we need x to be 100, such that root 100 is equal to 10. So therefore x must be 100. So x is equal to 100 is the correct answer for this question. We are done with the no calculator section. It was not so hard, but it required a lot of thinking and a lot of theoretical knowledge. The calculator section consists of 38 questions, and 55 minutes will be given to you on the real test to solve this section. Here is the reference list of the formulas that you may need for this exam, and I would like to ask you to solve the questions before I answer them, so that you would practice the whole thing with me. Now let's go to the first question. Try to read it before I answer it, and then I will explain you the solution. It says John runs at different speeds as a part of his training. Guys, you should remember that the middle information or the beginning of a paragraph will always be some additional information, and when you have a graph and information that accompanies that graph, you most of the time do not need the additional information. What is important though in this text is the question itself, and the questions are usually placed at the last sentence. On which interval is the target heart rate strictly increasing and then strictly decreasing? In between minutes 40 and 60, you can see that the target heart rate is first strictly increasing, right? And then from minute 50 to 60, it starts strictly decreasing. And therefore, this interval is what we're looking for. So 40 to 60 is the correct answer. Now let's go to the next question. If y is equal to kx, where k is a constant, and y is equal to 24 when x is equal to 6, what is the value of y when x is equal to 5? Guys, this is a short math problem, and what we need to do here, we need to plug in all that we know. So let's plug y is equal to 24 when x is equal to 6. 24 is equal to k multiplied by 6. Now let's rearrange this and solve for k. K is equal to 24 divided by 6, which is equal to 4. So k is equal to 4. Now let's plug it back into the original equation. Y is equal to 4 times x. They're asking us for the value of y when x is equal to 5, so let's plug 5 right here. Y is equal to 4 times 5, which is equal to 20. Y is equal to 20 when x is equal to 5. C is the correct answer. Now let's go to the next problem. In the figure above, lines L and M are parallel and lines S and T are parallel as well. If the measure of angle 1 is 35 degrees, so let's mention it right here, what is the measure of angle number 2? If you remember what the opposite interior angle rule states, well, it states that if you have two parallel lines and other lines in between them, then the interior angles are going to be the same. This is an extremely important rule in geometry, and you should know it for the SAT. Now the same thing, since S and T are parallel, goes right here. This is 35 degrees and this is 35 degrees, and therefore this is 35 and this is 35 degrees. Now you have to understand that since these are opposite interior angles, this one and this one are also going to be the same. And we know that the total measure has to be equal to 360 degrees, so let's call this angle right here x. Alright, now we know that 2x plus 35 plus 35 is equal to 360. Let's quickly solve for x. 2x is equal to 360 minus 70, and therefore x is equal to 360 minus 70 divided by 2. So x is equal to 290 divided by 2, which gives you 145. So D is the correct choice. Now let's move on to the next question. Again, we have a short word problem right here. If 16 plus 4x is 10 more than 14, that is the value of 8x. Let's first turn this written information into mathematics. 16 plus 4x is 10 more than 14, so we need to add 10 to 14 to get 16 plus 4x. Well, now we can solve for 4x. 4x is equal to 14 plus 10, and let's subtract 16 from both sides, minus 16. Therefore, 4x is going to be equal to 24 minus 16, which gives you 8. Now we're asked for the value of 8x, so let's multiply both sides by 2, and we will get 8x is equal to 16. Therefore, C is the correct answer to this question. Now let's move on to the next problem. Which of the following graphs best shows a strong negative association between D and T? Well, we're talking about the negative association as opposed to the positive one. If you remember, positive associations are those where the scatter plot is arranged such that the line of best fit would have a positive slope. Now, when it comes to negative associations, the scatter plots or the data is scattered in such a way that the line of best fit will have a negative slope. In this case, choice D represents a strong negative association between variable D and function t. So choice D is the correct answer. Now let's move on to the next question. A hospital stores one type of medicine in 2 decagram containers. Based on the information given in the box above, how many 1 milligram doses are there in one 2 decagram container? Now, this is a conversion problem. So how do we tackle such problems? First, we're interested in this 2 decagram containers, right? So 2 decagrams from here, let's multiply both sides by 2. 2 decagrams is going to be equal to 20 grams. Now, let's come right here. If 1 gram is equal to 1000 milligrams, then let's multiply everything by 20, right? Because we have 20 grams that we're interested in. So let's multiply everything by 20, and we will get 20,000 milligrams is equal to 20 grams. Therefore, the correct answer is 20,000, and therefore D. Conversion problems occur on the calculator section a lot, so you have to know what you're looking for, and you have to be very careful with multiplications in such problems. Let's move on to the next problem. The number of rooftops with solar panel installations in 5 cities is shown in the graph above. If the total number of installations is 27,500, what is an appropriate label for the vertical axis right here of the graph? Now, you have to know that there's 5 cities, so city A, B, C, D, E, and the horizontal axis is named city, and we know that there's 27,500 installations. When you look closely and add 9 plus 5 plus 6 plus 4 plus 3.5, you will get 27.5. In other words, the vertical axis represents the number of installations, but in thousands, because we have 27,500 installations in reality, but the data in the graph only sums up to 27.5. Therefore, the vertical axis represents the number of installations in thousands. C is the correct choice. Let's move on to the next problem. For what value of n is absolute value n minus 1 plus 1 equal to 0? Now, here you need to be very careful. Absolute value of anything, for example, absolute value of negative 5, gives you a positive number, 5. Absolute value of negative 25 will return you positive 25. Whatever you put in an absolute value, be it negative or positive, it will give you the positive version of that. So let's pay close attention. They're asking for what values of n minus 1 in absolute value plus 1 is going to be equal to 0. Let's rearrange this. For what values of n minus 1 in absolute value will give you negative 1. I just threw 1 to the other side. Now this looks impossible, and indeed there is no such value of n. For this might be possible, because whatever you put in here, 5, 10, 25, it will become positive. So it's not possible to get something negative, as right here, from an absolute value. Therefore, D is the correct answer. Now let's move on to the next problem. Now this is a double problem. That means this information is necessary to solve 2 questions, question 9 and question 10. Therefore, let's look at question 9. A is equal to 1052 plus 1.08 times t, where a is the speed of sound and t is the air temperature. Guys, the speed of sound depends on the temperature of the air. Physically, that is correct. And they have modeled this with an equation. So in question 9, they say, which of the following expresses the air temperature, T, in terms of the speed of sound? So whenever you're asked to model something in terms of something else, you just need to solve for a certain variable. In this case, we need to solve for t, because we need to represent t in terms of a. Therefore, let's leave t alone. A minus 1052 is equal to 1.08 times t, and let's divide both sides by 1.08, so 1.08 will cancel on this side, and therefore t is equal to this. So choice A is the correct answer. Now let's move on to the second part related to this information. At which of the following air temperatures will the speed of sound wave be closest to 1000 feet per second? In other words, when you put 1000 instead of A, what will be the value of T? Now we need to solve for T again. And if you remember, we have done that. So let's put 1000 instead of A. 1000 minus 1052 divided by 1.08 is equal to T that we're interested in. So let's simplify all of this on our calculator, since this is the calculator section, and the answer is approximately negative 48.15. Therefore, choice B is the closest one to the approximated answer, and therefore it is correct. Now let's move on to the next problem. Which of the following numbers is not a solution of the inequality given here? So let's try to solve this inequality. 3x minus 5 is bigger than or equal to 4x minus 3. Let's get the constants on one side and the unknowns to the other side. Let's throw 4x to that side and negative 5 to that side. We get negative x is bigger than or equal to 2, and therefore x is less than or equal to negative 2. You have to remember that when you divide an inequality by a negative number, like right here I divided everything by negative 1, you have to also flip the sign of the inequality. So this is our final answer. X must be less than or equal to negative 2. As we can see here, choice A, negative 1, is not less than or equal to negative 2. Therefore, choice A cannot be a solution to this inequality right here. Now let's move on to the next problem. Based on the histogram above, of the following, which is the closest to the average number of seeds per apple? Now, first of all, what are we looking for? We're looking for the number of seeds per apple, and therefore we need to sum up the amount of seeds, and we need to sum up the amount of apples, and we need to divide all of that to get the average. Now you've got 3 seeds in 2 apples, so that's 6. Plus, you got 5 seeds in 4 apples, that's 20. Plus, you got 6 seeds in 1 apple, that's just 6. And you got 7 seeds in 2 apples, that's plus 14. Then you got 9 seeds in 3 apples, that is plus 27. And how many apples do you have? Well, it says we have 12 apples right here, so let's divide everything by 12. Now notice, I didn't just write 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I had to multiply the number of seeds to the number of apples, because this many apples contain this many seeds. So in order to find the number of seeds, I need to multiply them also by the amount of apples. Now let's do this division. That division is going to be equal to 73 divided by 12, which you can solve on your calculator, and it will give you around 6.08. So 6 is the closest answer, and therefore it is correct. Now let's move on to the next problem. A group of 10th grade students responded to a survey that asked which math course they were currently enrolled in. The survey data were broken down as shown in the table above, right here. Which of the following categories accounts for approximately 19% of all the survey respondents? 19%. So basically speaking, of all the people, which is 310 people, if we divide one of these groups, right, which one is going to give us 0.19? As a fraction it's going to be 0.19, but in percent it's going to be 19%. Well, this is exactly what they're asking for. So in order to find that group, right, or the approximate number which will correspond to that group, let's first of all solve for x. X is equal to 0.19 multiplied by 310, which is gonna give you 58.9. or approximately 59. Now, which of these groups is the closest to 59 or 58.9? Well, we see that males that are taking geometry, that group is the closest to 59. That is 19% of everybody in the 10th grade. And therefore, males taking geometry, choice C is the correct choice. Now let's move on to the next problem. The table above lists the lengths to the nearest inch of a random sample of 21 brown bullhead fish. The outlier measurement of 24 inches is an error. So this one right here is an error. Now pay attention. This is the largest number in the group. We have 8, we have 9, up until 16, and then we have 24. Of the mean, median, and range, which will change the most if this one, 24 inches, will be removed from the data? Now let's recall what mean, median, and mode is. Mean is the average. So we will have to sum everything right here, like 8 plus 9 plus 9 plus 9, and so on until 24, and then we will have to divide everything by how many numbers we have. We know we have 21 numbers right here, so we'll have to divide everything by 21, and we will get the average. The median right here is going to be the middle number when everything is organized by size. So we're going to go from 8 and then we're going to go up until the largest number, and so on and so forth. And you can understand if you have 21 numbers, the middle number is going to be the 11th number. So which number is 11th here? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 12 is your median. It is the 11th number in this number set. And look around. 12 is also to the left of 12 and to the right of 12. That means if we remove this and we have 20 numbers now, median is still going to be 12. It's still at the middle. We have 12s, 12s, 12s all around in the middle. Therefore, 12 is going to be the median anyway. Now let's take a look at range. Okay, range. Range is the largest number minus the smallest number. So the largest number was 24 and the smallest is 8. So 24 minus 8 is 16. So your initial range was 16. Imagine we remove this 24. Now the largest number is 16, and the new range becomes 16 minus 8, which is 8. Now take a look right here. The range changed from 16 to 8, and therefore range changes significantly. And if you want to prove it to yourself, then try to also calculate the mean before we remove 24 and when 24 is in the data list, and you will see that the mean is very similar to what it was, but range changes from 16 to 8, therefore it changes significantly, and therefore range is the correct answer. Also, in such questions, you have to understand that whenever you remove the largest number from a data set, range is definitely going to change significantly, and in most of the cases it is the variable that changes the most when you remove either the smallest or the largest number. Now let's move on to the next problem. Questions 15 and 16 refer to this graph right here. As we can see, the graph represents total cost of renting a boat by the hour. So on the horizontal axis we have time in hours, and in the vertical axis we have total cost in dollars. And from this graph we can basically learn how much money we will have to pay for a certain amount of time we rent a boat. Now question number 15 is asking, what does the c-intercept, that means this point right here, 5, represent in the graph? Well, first of all, you need to understand that this is a linear equation, and of course this will be your c-intercept. C-intercept will be the initial cost of renting this boat, because here when we are intersecting the c-axis, time is equal to 0 hours. So that's the beginning of the boat renting. This means at the beginning of renting this boat you have to pay $5. Now you can think about it as a taxi ride. The same thing applies for taxis as well. When you enter a cab, you pay a certain fee just to start off the ride. So that is exactly what's going on right here, and therefore the correct answer is A, the initial cost of renting the boat. Now let's move to the next question. Which of the following represents the relationship between h and c for this graph? Well, first of all, you need to understand that we're asked for the equation of this line. Now, The equation of a line, or the general form of an equation of a line, goes like this: y is equal to mx plus b. But here, instead of y, we have c, so therefore c is equal to m, and instead of x, we have h, so m multiplied by h plus b, where m is going to be the slope. So let's find the slope first. What is it? Well, you have to understand that slope is equal to rise divided by run. I explained the whole concept of slope in a 1-hour video in my SAT Math full video course, which you can find on Udemy as well. Now here, rise over run is going to be, well, first of all, let's look at the run. How many units do we have to run? First, let's go and run from 1 to 2. So we're going to run 1 unit, okay? From 1 hour to the second hour. So run is 1. And let's go from 8 until 11 right here, okay? Let's go from 8 until 11, so 3 units, right? Because 11 minus 8 is gonna give you 3. So we ran 1 unit and we rose 3 units. And therefore on the numerator here we have 3. So m is equal to 3 over 1, and therefore m is equal to 3. Now let's look at b. b is the c-intercept, or that y-intercept, where that line crosses the c-axis, the vertical axis, and it is already determined. It is 5. Therefore, by replacing these variables, c is equal to 3h plus 5, and therefore choice C is correct. Now let's move to the next problem. The complete graph of the function f is shown in the xy plane above. For what value of x is the value of f of x at its minimum? Now it's very obvious here that the value of f of x is at its minimum right here, right? And the value of x there is -1, -2, -3, right? Right here, x is equal to -3, and therefore B is the correct answer. Okay, this was quite easy, and now let's move to the next problem. In the xy plane, if 0, 0 is a solution to the system of inequalities above, which of the following relationships between a and b must be true? Now, for something or some point to be a solution to a system of inequalities, it must satisfy both inequalities. So let's plug 0, 0 into both inequalities. Let's first plug it to the first inequality. 0 is less than or equal to 0 plus a. From here we can determine that a is bigger than 0. That's the first thing we have determined. Now let's plug 0, 0 to the second inequality. 0 is bigger than 0 plus b. And from here we can determine that b is less than 0. So b is less than 0, but a is larger than 0. And automatically we can determine that a is therefore larger than b. For example, let's say a is equal to 1. Now this is satisfied, a is larger than 0. And let's just say that b is equal to -1. Well, then 1 is bigger than -1. This must be correct, and therefore choice A is the correct answer. Now let's move on to the next problem. Now this problem is about constructing systems of linear equations and solving them. So let's try to construct a system of linear equations. A food truck sells salads for $6.5 and drinks for $2 each. So let's first construct an equation for money, alright? 6.5 times salads plus $2 multiplied by drinks, and it's going to be equal to a revenue since this equation is for money. So it is all equal to, at the end of the day, $836.5. Okay, that's your first equation. Now let's make another equation that's going to be for amount. So how many drinks and how many salads we had. It says that the food truck has sold a total of 209 salads and drinks, and therefore salads plus drinks will be equal to 209. Now we are interested in the amount of salads that were sold on that day, so we need to solve for S. Let's quickly do that. Let's solve this bottom equation for D. D is equal to 209 minus S. Now I will use the substitution method to solve this system of linear equations for the unknown variable S, where that is going to give me the amount of salads sold on that day. Let me now plug D right here. So 6.5S plus 2 times D, which is 209 minus S, is equal to 836.5. Now let me open up the parentheses. 6.5S plus 418 minus 2S gives me 836.5. And let me simplify, get the unknowns on one side and the constants on the other side. I get 4.5 4.5 multiplied by s is equal to 836.5 minus 418, which gives me 418.5. Now let me divide both sides by 4.5 and I will get the value of s. This 4.5 and this one cancel out and I get s is equal to 418.5 divided by 4.5, which gives me 93. So s, or the amount of salads, is equal to 93. Again, I had to construct two equations that gives me a system of linear equations, and then I had to solve it. One of the equations was constructed for the amount of money or the revenue on that day, because we know that the revenue was $836.5, and the other equation was constructed for the amount of drinks and salads sold on that day, which we know is 209. Now let's move on to the next problem. Alma bought a laptop computer at a store that gave a 20% discount off its original price. The total amount she paid to the cashier was $P, including an 8% sales tax on the discounted price. So guys, initially she had a laptop, and let's say that laptop cost her $100 initially. Then there was a 20% discount, so that's minus 20%. So she had to pay $80, right? Now, they also said that they had to add 8% sales tax on this $80, so we will have to multiply this by 1.08. This is like adding 8%. So when we multiply that, we will get $86.4. So if initially the laptop cost her $100, she would have to pay $86.4 for that laptop after the sales tax and after the 20% discount. Now notice what I did here. So my original price is $100. So let me call the original price O. Now I multiply O by 0.8. This is the same as subtracting 20% of that original price. So 100 times 0.8 gives me $80. What I did then is I multiplied that result by 1.08. To all of this, I added 8%. That's the sales tax. And then finally, I got the final price, the amount of dollars she gave to the cashier, which is $86.4. The question is asking which of the following represents the original price of the computer in terms of P. Therefore, if I need to find this original price, and I suggest you always use a method like this to solve such problems where you have to go step by step. So if I have to solve for O, or the original price, I will just say O is equal to P, the price that she paid to the cashier, divided by 0.8 multiplied by 1.08. I just rearranged the whole thing. And therefore, choice D is the correct answer. Now, I want you to remember that if you want to subtract 20% from something, you multiply that something by 0.8. If you want to add 8% to something, you multiply that something by 1.08. If you need more information on percentages, or if you do not know the theoretical part, then you should check out my video course on SAT Math, where I explained everything you need to know about percentages for the SAT. Now let's move on to the next problem. Now this is a probability problem, guys. And in probability problems, what I do is I never read this information here. What I do is I just read the question, because the question is very important. In the last sentence, they're going to give you what you're looking for and what you have to calculate. So if a person is chosen at random from those who recalled at least one dream, now how many people recalled at least one dream? Let's see. Well, there is 39 people that recalled 1 to 4 dreams and 125 people that recalled 5 or more dreams. So there is a total of 39 plus 125 people that recalled at least one dream. Now, what is the probability that that person belonged to group Y? Where is group Y? Well, group Y is right here, right? And what are we interested in? We're interested in the people that recalled at least one dream, right? So that's these two columns. So in those groups, there's 11 plus 68 people. So let's write them down right here. Indeed, when we're searching for a certain probability, it is a fraction, and it's what we're interested in divided by the total. And so the total here is the total amount of people that recalled at least one dream, and what we're interested in is the people that belong to group Y that have recalled at least one dream. And therefore, we need to find that fraction. 11 plus 68 gives me 79, and 39 plus 125 gives me 164. Therefore, this is the probability of picking a person from group Y out of people who have recalled at least one dream in this study. So C is the correct answer. Now let's move on to the next problem. Alright, so here they gave you a table and they said questions 22 and 23 refer to this information. Well, this means we will need to use this information to solve those two questions. Now the first question is asking which of the following best approximates the average rate of change. Rate of change, again, that's the slope, right? This is the slope, or that increase in the annual budget for agriculture and natural resources in Kansas from 2008 until 2010. Well, the thing that we're interested in, agriculture and natural resources, that's right here, and it says from 2008 until 2010. So you see 3 years passed and we have come from $358,708 to $488,106. So in 3 years we have that difference, right? We have this minus this. Alright, now that we've got our money at the numerator of the slope, we're also going to have years. So over how many years did that happen? Well, it happened from 2008 until 2010. So we get 2010 minus 2008 at the bottom. And when we calculate all of that, we will get $64,699 per year. This is the average rate of change in the price or in the amount of money per year. Therefore, choice B is correct. Now you may ask yourself, why is it saying 65 million here, but I have 65,000 here? Well, because all of that data is in thousands of dollars. So you also have to multiply data here by 1,000 to get the real thing. And this was a simple slope or rate of change problem, and we know how to calculate that. We just divide the difference of the main variable, for example the price, by the difference of the secondary variable, so for example the year or the independent variable. Now let's move on to the next problem. Of the following, which program's ratio of its 2007 to 2010 budget is closest to the human resource program's ratio of 2007 to 2010 budget? Now let's take a look at that ratio, right? So human resource program, which is right here, had this much in 2007 and this much in 2010. Now let's try and divide that. So the ratio that we're getting is 0.684. We are going to be looking for that ratio in these programs A, B, C, and D. Okay, so we need to find 0.684. Now my advice to you is this. Start from the last one and take a look at it. Because if this is a calculation question and you have to try each one of these one by one, then most probably they have hidden the right answer as the last answer because they want you to waste time on the SAT. So let's try and see. Let's divide 263,463 by 464,233. These are these two numbers, the ratio of annual budget for the public safety program from 2007 to 2010. So let's do that and we will get 0.567. Now, this is not very close to this, okay? So let's just say that public safety has this ratio, and let's try the other ones. Let's see what it is for the education program, okay? It is 2,164,607 divided by 3,008,036, and this gives me 0.7196. So I'll put it right here. Now let's try the highways and transportation here. We will have to divide this by this, so let's do that. This gives me 0.827, which is way further than what I'm looking for. So I'll just write it down right here and I'll calculate the last one. For the agriculture and natural resources, I'll have to divide this by this. So let's do that. And that division yields 0.766. So now we have to ask ourselves which one of these is the closest to 0.684. And of course, if you compare each one of them one by one, you will see that education differs by only around 0.3, and therefore it is the closest to this number. So choice B is the correct one. Now let's move to the next problem. So which of the following is an equation of a circle in the xy plane with center 0, 4 and radius with endpoints 4/3, 5? Now you have to understand that the equation of a circle goes like this: x minus h squared plus y minus k all squared is equal to r squared, where r is the radius. So h and k are the center point, and the center point is given right here. H is the x-coordinate of the center, so we can plug in 0 here, and k is the y-coordinate of the center, which is 4. So we have got a further simplified version of our equation of a circle, and it looks like choice A and choice C, so we can cross out B and D, but we still do not know what the radius is. So it says that the center is 0, 4, somewhere right here, and the end point, so any point on the circumference, is actually 4/3, 5. And we have to figure out this distance, and it's going to give us radius. Then we will find what radius squared is. Now, the distance formula is actually pretty simple. Distance is equal to x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. That's the distance here and here. And this equation comes from the Pythagorean theorem. Now, if you want to learn how it can be derived or where it comes from, then you can watch my SAT Math video course where I explained everything you need to know about this. So let's say x2, the second x coordinate, is going to be equal to this one. So distance is equal to square root 4/3, and the first x coordinate is going to be equal to just 0. Now let's say that the second y coordinate is going to be equal to 5, and the first y coordinate is going to be equal to 4. Basically speaking, I set this point as the second point and this point as the first point, and I just plugged all the coordinates into this equation. So finally I get distance is equal to square root of 4/3 squared, which is actually 16/9, plus 1 squared, which is 1. Now this is equal to 16/9 plus 9/9, which is 25/9. So that is equal to that distance between these 2 points, and therefore it's equal to the radius. Radius is equal to square root 25/9. Now let's plug that back in here. If radius is equal to 25/9 in a square root, then radius squared is just going to be equal to 25 divided by 9. And therefore we find that choice A is the correct one. Now, if this is not clear, then please try to rewatch the solution and try to understand what I did with the distance formula. And also you have to know that you need this circle equation on your SATs, so you have to memorize it. I will repeat it right here: x minus h all squared plus y minus k all squared is equal to radius squared, where h and k are the center of the circle. These are basically just the coordinates like x and y, and this is very important. Now let's move to the next problem. The equation above expresses the approximate height h in meters of a ball t seconds after it is launched vertically upward from the ground with an initial velocity of 25 meters per second. After approximately how many seconds will the ball hit the ground? Now you have to understand that this is a quadratic equation because it's a second order polynomial. And if you know how to graph the parabolas, again this concept I explained in my mathematics course for the SAT, you will understand that this is a parabola that has a y-intercept of 0 and that is facing downwards because it has a negative coefficient a. If you remember, parabolas are written in the general form y is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c, and if a is negative, where in this case a is negative 4.9, then the parabola is facing downwards. Now they kicked a ball. Just imagine a ball being kicked from the ground and is going up, going up, going up, and then suddenly it goes down, and at some point it hits the ground again. Here height is modeled as the vertical axis and time is modeled as the horizontal axis. So with time the ball is going up and then it's going down. They're asking, after approximately how many seconds will the ball hit the ground? When the ball hit the ground, of course you know that height is equal to 0. So let's equate this to 0. 0 is equal to negative 4.9 t squared plus 25t. Now you may see that this is a quadratic equation that we need to solve, and there is 3 methods of solving quadratic equations. You can use the discriminant formula, you can factorize, and you can use simplification if there is no y-intercept. And here there is no y-intercept, it is just 0. So let's try to use the simplification method. Let's factorize t. Let's say t out of the parentheses multiplied by negative 4.9t plus 25 is all equal to 0. I just rewrote this by factorizing t. Now there's two ways for this whole equation to be equal to 0. You either have to make this one 0, so when it is 0, 0 times everything here will give you 0, or you will have to make whatever is inside here equal to 0. Therefore, let's try to do that. Negative 4.9t plus 25 is equal to 0. Now let's rearrange this, okay? Since if this whole thing is 0, whatever you multiply it by, it will still give you 0, so we will satisfy this. So let's rearrange it and solve for t. Let's send negative 4.9t to the other side, and we will get 25 is equal to 4.9t. And now let's leave t alone by dividing both sides by 4.9. So approximately we get t is equal to 5. After 5 seconds, the ball will hit the ground again. And we found that just using our common sense, a little bit of physics knowledge, and knowledge of how to solve parabolas or a quadratic equation. So D is the correct answer. Now let's move on to the next problem. Well, it says Katerina is a botanist studying the production of pears by two types of pear trees. She noticed that type A trees produce 20% more pears than the type B trees. So she's dealing with two trees, okay? And one of them is type A and the other one is type B. Now let's model this sentence right here. Type A trees produce 20% more pears than type B trees. So we will need to multiply type B by 1.2 to get A. That is 20% more. So now that we have this expression, based on Katerina's observation, if the type A trees produce 144 pears, how many pears did the type B trees produce? Well, we know what A is. A is equal to 144. So 144 is equal to 1.2 multiplied by the amount of pears type B trees produced. Now let's solve for B. B is equal to 144 divided by 1.2, and this gives you 120. So type B trees produce 120 pears. The important thing in this question is to find this relationship, and after you find this relationship, you can plug in whatever you know to solve for the unknown. Now let's move to the next problem. It says a square field measures 10 meters by 10 meters. 10 students each mark off a randomly selected region of the field. Each region is square and has side lengths of 1 meter, and no two regions overlap. The students count the earthworms contained in the soil to a depth of 5 centimeters beneath the ground surface in each region. The results are shown in the table below. So here is the tabulated data of the results. The question is asking which of the following is a reasonable approximation of the number of earthworms to a depth of 5 centimeters beneath the ground surface in the entire field. Now you have to understand that what the students did is they had a 10 meter by 10 meter field, and they marked it 1 meter by 1 meter. So they separated that field into 10 even points, and out of 100 1 by 1 square regions like this, there were only 10 of them that were observed. So out of 100 regions like this, only 10 of them were observed. And 10 out of 100 contained the sum of these worms. So 107 plus 147 plus 146 plus 135 up until 166. Let's first of all sum everything here. This gives me approximately 1471. Now just think about it. 10 100ths or 1/10 of this whole region contains 1471 worms. So how many worms does the whole region contain? Well, we will need to multiply our result by 10 to get how many worms the whole region or one region contains, not 1/10. So let's multiply everything here by 10 and we will get approximately 14,710. This is how many worms are approximately contained in the whole region. Therefore, the correct answer is C. Again, the students only looked at 1/10 of the whole region and they found 1471 worms. And therefore, if they were to look over the whole region, they would find 10 times more worms than how many worms were contained in 1/10 of that whole region. And therefore, choice C is again our correct answer. Now let's move on to the next problem. If the system of inequalities y is larger than or equal to 2x plus 1 and y is larger than 1 over 2x minus 1 is graphed in the xy plane above, which quadrant contains no solutions to the system? Now let me redraw this xy plane right here. And let me first look at this inequality. It has a slope of 2 and a y-intercept of 1. So it's something like this, the equation of that line. And therefore the inequality, since y is more than or equal to that line, y has to be above that line. So we shade the region above that line. This is how we graph inequalities. Inequalities represent regions on the xy plane. Now when it comes to the next one, y is larger than 1 over 2x minus 1, the y-intercept is negative 1, and the slope is a little bit less steeper. And again, since y is larger than that, the solutions are contained above that line. So we see that if this were a system, that means if both of them were dependent on each other, the solution to that system would be the regions where the both colors intersect. That means both inequalities have solutions or are satisfied. So in quadrant number 1, we have both colors present. Now in quadrant number 2, we also have both colors crossing each other. In one portion of quadrant number 3, we also have solutions to that system of inequalities. But when it comes to quadrant number 4, we only have solutions to the second inequality right here. And therefore, quadrant number 4 is the region where no solutions to the whole system are contained. So quadrant 4 is the correct answer to this problem. Now let's move on to the next problem. For a polynomial p of x, the value of p of 3 is equal to negative 2. Which of the following must be true about p of x? Well, let's see first of all. We have a certain polynomial, and at x is equal to 3, p of 3 is negative 2, so it's right here. So this polynomial could be something like this, it could be something like this, it could be anything. Now, for the sake of this problem, I will assume a polynomial. I will assume it just for you to understand how to solve such problems. I will say that that polynomial p of x is equal to x squared plus 3x minus 20. Now the reason I did this is because let's try to plug in x is equal to 3. So 9 plus 9 minus 20, that's going to be 18 minus 20, and that's going to give you negative 2. The reason I came up with this polynomial is just to satisfy this fact right here. Now, I could have come up with any polynomial like this as long as it satisfies this information right here. And you should understand that because it didn't take me a lot of time to do this. I could say p of x is x cubed minus 29, and again you would get 27 minus 29, which would give you negative 2 as the answer, so this is satisfied. And I could say anything else as long as it satisfies that relation. But what I want to show you is a property. Let's try and divide that polynomial by x minus 3, x minus that point, okay? So let's say x squared plus 3x minus 20 is divided by x minus 3. Now in order to be able to divide this, you also need to know how to divide polynomials, and if you do not know how to do that, then my full course contains all the information you need. So we need x, and we multiply x by x minus 3, we get x squared minus 3x, then we subtract everything at the bottom from the top, x squareds cancel, we get 3x minus 3x, which gives you plus 6x minus 20. This just comes down. Now in order to continue, we need to ask ourselves what multiplies by x to give us 6x, so that's just 6. So 6 times x is going to give you 6x, and 6 times negative 3 will give you negative 18. Again, subtract everything and you will get negative 2. So the remainder here, you cannot divide any further. The remainder here is negative 2. Now take a look at choice D. The remainder when p of x is divided by x minus 3, this, is negative 2. Well, how come? Now first of all, this applies to all polynomials. If at some point a polynomial has a certain value, like p of 3 is equal to negative 2 or f of 5 is equal to 7, then you need to understand that if you divide that polynomial by x minus whatever is inside, so for example x minus 5, the remainder will be the corresponding function value. Just like here, we took that polynomial and I completely made it up for you to see the fact, and we divided it by x minus that value inside the function, and what we got as a remainder is what the function is equal to at that point. And this works for all polynomials. So next time you see such a problem, straight away you can answer it by stating this fact, and you won't even have to prove that. I hope this was useful, and I would like you to remember this because this will save you a whole bunch of time on the exam. Now let's move on to the next problem. Which of the following is an equivalent form of the equation of the graph shown in the xy plane above, from which the coordinates of vertex A, well, this is the vertex, can be identified as constants in the equation? Now, first of all, let's take a look right here. This is a parabola, and it's made up of a quadratic equation, the general form of which is y is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. That general form is represented right here. However, the form of this equation where the vertex can be identified as constants in the equation is the vertex form. I'm sure you have heard of this, and the equation of the vertex form goes like this. F of x, or y, is equal to a multiplied by x minus h all squared plus k, where h and k are the coordinates of the vertex. So this is our vertex form. The coordinates of the vertex here are h comma k, which are 1 comma negative 16, because right here you see it corresponds to approximately negative 16, and the x coordinate of the vertex corresponds to 1. So let's plug it into this equation right here. Y is equal to a times x minus 1 all squared minus 16. Now a can be determined from here, right? Because we can compare the general form to what we have, and we'll see that a is just 1, so we can just neglect this. And this is the form of the equation of this parabola or this graph where the vertex is given as constants in the equation. Therefore, choice D is the correct one. Now you have to remember, for such types of questions, vertex form of a parabola is the form of the equation where the vertices or the coordinates of the vertex can be identified as constant numbers, just like here, 1 and negative 16. Now let's move on to the next problem. Viat can husk at least 12 dozen ears of corn per hour, and at most 18 dozen ears of corn per hour. Based on this information, what is a possible amount of time in hours that it could take Viat to husk 72 dozen ears of corn? Well, let's see. There's two choices. We either divide 72 by 12 or we divide it by 18. Either way, it is going to give us the amount of hours. So let me divide 72 by 12 and I will get 6. And for this problem, I can also divide 72 by 18 and this will give me 4. Either of these numbers is correct, and therefore we can say 6 is the correct answer or 4 is the correct answer. Now let's move on to the next problem. The posted weight limit for a covered wooden bridge in Pennsylvania is 6,000 pounds. A delivery truck that is carrying X identical boxes, each weighing 14 pounds, will pass over the bridge. If the combined weight of the empty delivery truck and its driver is 4,500 pounds, what is the maximum value of the boxes that the driver can carry over that bridge? Basically speaking, we know that the limit is 6,000 pounds, right? Now we have to understand that the empty weight of the truck and the driver in it is going to be 4,500 pounds. And to that weight, we will also add 14-pound boxes. We don't know how many boxes there are, so we will just keep it as an unknown. 14 pounds times X boxes. Now this inequality represents this whole text in a mathematical way. So the empty weight of the truck plus the total weight of the boxes should not exceed 6,000 pounds. Now when we solve for x, or when we rearrange this whole expression, we will see that 14x is less than or equal to 1,500, and therefore x must be less than or equal to 1,500 divided by 14. And this is approximately 107.14. So the maximum amount of boxes, x is the amount of boxes of course, so the maximum amount we can carry over that bridge is 107 boxes. Now let's plug it back and let's see how much that is going to be. So 107 plugged in here is going to give us 4,500 plus 14 times 107. And when we plug everything into the calculator, we will get 5,998 pounds. This is how much we're carrying over the bridge, and since it does not exceed 6,000 pounds, we're good to go. So x is equal to 107. That's the correct answer. Now let's move to the next problem. According to the line graph above, the number of portable media players sold in 2008, so this number right here, is what fraction of the numbers sold in 2011? Well, in 2011, this many players were sold. Now let's see. In 2011, they sold 160 players, and in 2008, they sold 100 players. We need to find what fraction of 2011's sales are the 2008 sales. So what do? We have to divide 100 by 160. Now these zeros will cancel and we'll get 5/8. You can just plug that into the answer sheet, or you could even say 0.625, which is equivalent to that. Either way, this is the fraction of the players sold in 2011. And when you multiply this whole thing by 160, you will get 100. So 5/8 of the players sold in 2011 were sold in 2008. Now let's move on to the next problem. A local television station sells time slots for programs in 30-minute intervals. If the station operates 24 hours per day, every day of the week, what is the total number of 30-minute time slots the station can sell for Tuesday and Wednesday? Now you should understand, Tuesday and Wednesday, that's 2 days. That's 24 hours. So 2 multiplied by 24 gives us 84 hours in total. Now, we understand that 48 hours is 48 times 60, 2,880 minutes. So that's the total amount of operation hours on Tuesday and Wednesday. And we know that every 30 minutes a time slot is sold. So let's divide 2,880 by 30 and we will get 96. So 96 time slots are sold on Tuesday and Wednesday. We just had to find the total amount of time in minutes and then divide it by the amount of minutes it takes to sell one slot, and therefore we have obtained the amount of slots that have been sold on Tuesday and Wednesday. Now let's move on to the next problem. A dairy farmer uses a storage silo that is in the shape of the right circular cylinder above. If the volume of the silo is 72 pi cubic yards, what is the diameter of the base of the cylinder in yards? Now we are interested in this diameter. Let's first recall what the volume of a cylinder is. A volume of a cylinder is the area of a base, so pi times r squared, multiplied by the height, so times h. And we're given that the volume is equal to 72 pi. So pi r squared times height is equal to 72 pi. Now let's divide both sides by pi. We get r squared times h is equal to 72. And the height is already given. Height is 8 yards. So 8 multiplied by r squared is equal to 72. Therefore, r squared is equal to 72/8, which is equal to 9. Now, r squared, or the radius squared, is equal to 9. So radius of this cylinder squared is 9. Therefore, radius is equal to square root of 9, and that gives you 3. We have just found the radius. Now, since radius is equal to 3, we know that diameter is 2 multiplied by the radius, and therefore diameter is 2 times 3, which gives you 6. So 6 is the correct answer. Now let's move on to the next problem. For what value of x is the function h above undefined? Well, when you hear this, undefined, you need to understand that for a function to be undefined, its denominator must be equal to 0. The denominator of that function must be equal to 0, whatever that function is. So we need to equate the denominator to 0. That way we will get 1/0, which is not possible. Something over 0 is undefined in mathematics, and we have not defined it yet in math, therefore it is undefined. So let's equate the whole thing to 0. So x minus 5 all squared plus 4 times x minus 5 in parentheses plus 4 is equal to 0. Now let's simplify. Let me open this up. X squared minus 10x plus 25, that's this whole thing, plus 4x minus 20, that's this thing, plus 4. And all of that is equal to 0. And let's add the like terms, 25 and negative 20 and 4 all of them add up to give me 9, then x squared just stays as it is, and negative 10x plus 4x gives me negative 6x. So all of that gives me 0. Now, can I factorize this? Yes, I can. So x minus 3 in parentheses multiplied by x minus 3. That's just a perfect square. And therefore, you can see that the x value that makes all of this 0 is actually x is equal to 3. So x is equal to 3 is our answer to this problem. Now let's move on to the next problem. It says questions 37 and 38 refer to the following information. Therefore, we can tackle 2 questions just by understanding one piece of information. It says Jessica opened a bank account that earns 2% interest compounded annually. Her initial deposit was $100 and she uses the expression 100 multiplied by x to the power of t to find the value of the account after t years. Well, what you have to know about compound interests is that first you put in a certain value in your bank. Then every year that value is multiplied by a certain percentage. So a certain percentage is added to it, just like plus 2% every year. So if it was $100 in the beginning of the year, next year is going to be $102 because 2% are added. Next year, you're going to add 2% to that. So it's not going to be 104, but it's going to be 102 multiplied by 1.02. Again, percentages. If you don't know how to do this, please watch my SAT math video course. And then you will get 104.04. And next year you want to multiply 104.04 by 1.02 and it will give you 106.1208 bucks. So each year your money is increasing, but it's not increasing linearly because the change here was from 100 to 2, so that's $2, and next year it's 2.04 bucks, next year it's 2.8 bucks, and so on and so forth. So it's increasing with an interest exponentially, and if you were to graph that increase, it would look something like this. It's increasing exponentially. And here you have an exponential relation. So what is x? Now you have to know that for compound interests, you just look at the percent that you're adding to the initial value. We're adding 2% to $100 and every year it multiplies. So if it is a 2% compound interest, then we're going to have to multiply 100 by 1.02 and raise it to the amount of years. If it is a 50% compound interest, then we will have to multiply 100, that initial value, by 1.5 and then raise it to the amount of years. And from here you can look at any percentage. If it was 7%, then we would have to multiply 100 by 1.07 and raise it to the amount of years. So in this case, x, that is whatever is inside the parentheses and whatever is raised to the power of years, is 1.02 because it's 2% compound interest. So x is equal to 1.02. Now let's go to the next problem. Jessica's friend found an account that earns 2.5% interest compounded annually. Her friend made an initial deposit of $100 into this account at the same time Jessica made a deposit of $100 into her account. After 10 years, how much more money will her friend have than Jessica? Okay, so let's see. Her friend has an account with 2.5% compound interest, and he's also depositing $100. So the equation for her friend is going to be 100 multiplied by 1.025 to the power of t. That's her friend. Now let's look at Jessica. Jessica's equation of the amount of money she will have t years after she has deposited $100 is this. Now let's say after 10 years, both of them are looking into their bank accounts. So let's set t to 10. So her friend will have 100 times 1.025 to the power of $10. And that gives you 128 bucks. Now let's look at Jessica. Jessica will have 100 multiplied by 1.02 to the power of $10, which is actually 121.9 bucks. And we can round this to the nearest cent. So let's subtract that. 128 minus 121.9, that gives you $6.1, and therefore this is our correct answer. Now this is it. We have solved another practice test, and I would like to thank you for staying up until this moment and watching it all through. I hope that your solutions were similar to mine, and I hope that you got it all right. You have to understand that practice makes perfect. So make sure to practice more and watch my other videos. And if you are interested in the theoretical part of math, or if you do not know the equations or how to tackle different types of problems, then you should definitely check out my full SAT math video course. There you will find all the equations and all the information you must know for the SAT's math section. Again, thank you for joining this course, and I wish you all the best. Good luck.